This is a podcast that I didn't want to do, but I'm going to have to do it, and it's going to lead to an uncomfortable conversation. I never thought that I would be experiencing this as a creator, but it's fallen into my lap and I have to deal with it. And I wanted to share with you, as for educational purposes, really, and just to tell you what goes on behind the scenes with creators. Sometimes there's things going on behind the scenes with creators that you don't even know. And because this is something that I have to deal with, I am going to share it with you unreluctantly, or is it reluctantly? Reluctantly. So I have a sub who is more attached to me than he should be, and he will leave me comments. Once he left about over 25 comments in less than a 30-hour period, all of which I did not answer. And many of his comments contain things like, I love you very much, you mean the world to me, I'm thinking of you, and um, things that I find uncomfortable. Now, this is somebody that I didn't want to put it this way. His behavior has escalated over the last few months. And I can kind of pinpoint when his behavior escalated. I enjoyed having this person on my channel for a while, even though he was always a bit overbearing and over demanding of my attention. But in the last few months, he has really escalated with his behavior. His behavior has become more obsessive, more stalkerish, and more demanding. And I had to cut ties with him. What I initially wanted to do was to go no contact, hoping that he would stop sending me these messages on these comments. And I only planned on going no contact with him for a while and then re-engaging with him. But after he left over 25 messages on my channel in a less than 30-hour period, I realized that he was obsessed, and um, I had to let him go. This had to stop. It's been a little bit stressful. It's not the most stressful thing that's going on in my life, but this is the introduction to what I'm about to share with you. And if anyone else is going through this, I just want to give you some tips of how to handle it and how to deal with it, because um, it's been a lot to deal with and a lot to handle and it's escalated. So I will explain further in the next phase of this podcast. Now, I'm going to refer to this person as X, and I've tried to cover his handle somewhat so you don't see the full handle name. Um, as you can see, this person's comments are very repetitive. He seems to be very intellectually limited, doesn't have a very wide vocabulary, and I would put him in several categories of the incompetent suitor, intimacy seeking, and cyber. Those are the three categories I'd put him in. Um, he wants to establish a relationship that isn't there and that will never be there. And he wants to maintain, and he wants whatever he's feeling to be reciprocated, which I can tell you for now that it's not. So this is why he leaves these types of comments, and he's not mature enough or doesn't have any boundaries and is not intellectually savvy enough to realize that this is not going to get him anywhere. Um, but this wasn't, I mean, I'm not going to show you every single comment that he's ever sent me, because that would be waste of my time. By looking at the comments that I'm showing you, you can get the gist of what he's about. Um, but I'll just read something here. You are so lovely, and you mean everything to me. Now, that's just not something that you would say to a creator. I mean, I can understand somebody having a crush. Let me just make it clear. I've got no problem with somebody having a crush on me, thinking they're in love with me, um, fancying me in any way, or giving me compliments. That is not my issue. My issue is that there's a pattern of behavior, there is a pattern of language use, there is an extremity. This is going too far. This is my issue. It's a pattern of behavior that's obsessive, repetitive and consistent. And this is what ultimately turned me off. Typically, with this type of personality profile, and I just don't feel like showing you any more comments or messages, you've seen enough. I'll do that in a second episode, which I'll put out later in the year. I don't want to give this person any more oxygen. But typically, with this type of person, is that they feel some kind of entitlement because they've been nice to you, because they've been supportive of you, because they've basically given you all these flattering comments, and the love being um, the love bombing. I'm going to use that word term instead. Typically, they feel like they've got some kind of entitlement to you. They're entitled to be loved back or liked back, or they're entitled to a response from you. And that's where we're at. It turns into resentment and the rejected. And that's where I'm at. He has since said he really wanted me, even though a lot of or some of his comments alluded to friendship. His mask kind of slipped. He said he really wanted me, and why am I letting him go? I can't let somebody go that I've never been in a relationship with, and why have I left him? So he's gone from all those steps and stages of confusion, bewilderment, to anger and all that kind of stuff. Um, and he feels entitled to have access to me, entitled to for me to respond to him, and for me to fuel him in terms of giving him a response and reciprocating his feelings. um and he said that he really wanted me, and he's gone to even more elaborate lengths to try and maintain contact with me by making up scenarios that don't exist, which I will show you at another time. I just don't feel like doing it right now. um and he's obviously gone through the process of erotomania, where he's had delusions of being in a relationship with me, and he's come as an alt, and I know it's him. He's come in as an alt and said things like, "We know you love X very much," pretending to be a relative of his. He's tried to create a scenario where we are in a romantic, loving relationship where we love each other very much. And I can tell you when the escalation started, because it wasn't always as extreme. His comments weren't always as lovey dovey and extreme as this, but it's been a build up over time. He's worked me, he's worked me, he's worked me. And I wouldn't say that he's any kind of intellectual genius or intelligent or savvy, but he does have the manipulation skills down. I mean, he does have that. I'll give him that. Um, and I can tell you when he escalated. I'm not going to say the name and I'm not going to say the scenario, but he escalated when he thought he had me to himself. He started to escalate when I said something. I put down something and then I wasn't going to pursue something, or that I wasn't going to get involved with somebody. He started to escalate after that. And so he has become the rejected, resentful person, because now he knows if he comments, there's not going to be a response from me. I've told him that. Either his comments will be deleted or ignored. So he doesn't have control over me anymore. He doesn't have the access he wants to me anymore, and that causes a buildup of resentment and rejection. And you know what happens when that process happens. So yes, it's a very uncomfortable situation. It's not the worst thing that I'm going through right now. We all have good days and bad days. We all have things that we're going through in life. It's a part of life, to go through experiences, and this is the experiences I'm having. It's been very uncomfortable for me to talk about this. I don't like pity party videos or vlogs or podcasts. I really don't. I try and stay away from them. But I just wanted to let you know what I was going through, because part of what I do on my channel is not only to talk about human behavior, but to share my personal experiences with you. So that's why I decided to tell you what was going on behind the scenes.